Hi everyone, my name is Allison. I am the current Crochet Club president, and I'm going to be teaching you how to make a classier tapestry or classier flag with tapestry crochet. Just to reiterate, or as like a disclaimer, this is the first tutorial I've ever made, so I apologize in advance. But also, if you want a more comprehensive, thorough review of specific crochet basics, I highly recommend you check out the beginner crochet tutorial document that you have in the bottom right corner of the document you've received for significantly better tutorials of how to color change, single crochet, and chain, which are the three most important things for this specific tutorial. But without further ado, let's get started. For this tutorial, you're going to need about 40 grams of the black chenille yarn, which this is about weight 6. This, obviously this varies depending on how thick the yarn is and which specific pattern you want to be doing. I'm weighing everything for the largest pattern that says the full Princeton, in my case 2027. Whereas if you're doing one that's smaller, obviously you need less yarn, but we have enough yarn for you to make the full thing if you desire. And then about 12 grams of this orange chenille yarn. Again, feel free to follow along with whatever material or yarn you may choose. This is going to be our background color, and this is going to be our text color. So feel free to, make a blue and green Princeton flag if you'd like to as well. But this is the ones we'll be using for the sake of this tutorial. For now, I'm going to put the orange yarn to the side because we won't be needing it for now, because we got to start ourselves with a black chain and a row of single stitches. Again, for a better tutorial on how to do these, I highly recommend the tutorials, again, along the bottom of the screen or on our beginner tutorial document, because those people are a lot more experienced at explaining this than I am. But without further ado, let's get started. But before we talk about the actual pattern itself, we need to start off with the very basics. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Again, please see the tutorials on the bottom of the page if that interests you. But here's like some quick like TLDR of crocheting. So there's no right or wrong way to hold a crochet hook. People have different ways. I default to like this almost like spoon-like way of holding it, where I have like 3 of my fingers sort of at an angle, my index finger against the flat part on the back of this, and then my thumb also there. So I just like do. Some other ways I've seen that are somewhat common is some people hold it kind of like you'd hold a knife, like you're kind of like banging your knife and fork on the table. So that's like 4 fingers around and then your thumb on the flat part. And another way that's quite popular is holding it like a pencil, where like if you're gonna like write stuff down, so you have it's rests between your middle and index finger, and you have your thumb kind of, the rest of it is in the gap between the thumb and index. This is also great. I think this is the most popular way, but there's no right or wrong way. The next thing I'm going to show you is a quick thing on how to hold the yarn. Again, no right or wrong way. It's really, the way that works best for you. The desired result is just having a reasonable tension in the yarn, where it's not like, obviously you can see like smiling, it's not like hanging like this, and it's not like, trying to like tear itself apart. So you want like kind of just like a nice tension where you don't see the yarn like, it's a little hard to see with chenille yarn, but you don't want the yarn like deforming under the tension. But the way I like to ensure that I can get this is very specific. So if there's a better posture that works more for you, I invite you to try it. But what I like doing is I like wrapping the yarn. Like I put the short end of the yarn in front of my pinky finger, and then I wrap it around. Have like my pinky, like wrap it around behind, and then back forward. I have my pinky and ring finger kind of grab it, and then I put the yarn over my index finger, and I have my index finger sort of like pointed, like I'm pointing at someone. So this is how it's held. So let me show you that one more time. So the way you would do that is you put it in front of your pinky, wrap around, then over pinky and middle, close those two, and then in front of and over your index finger. And then you have like your nice little yarn. And then from here, what you can do is you can raise or lower your index finger to change the tension. So you're going to get a nice little index finger workout. But yeah, and of course, if you have a better way, just all you really want to do is ensure that you're kind of like keeping a reasonable tension in this little yarn right here. So if you have a better way, feel free to do that, or whatever way the tutorial explains otherwise. But again, feel free to watch a tutorial on how to do a slip knot that can explain this better than I can, and with more time dedicated. So yeah, so we make our little 4. We fold the end in half. We lift the 4 up. We insert the fold in. oh, and then we pull on the loop to extend it, and bam, so we pull both sides. So really you just want the knot there. And then what we can do is we can adjust the size of the slip knot to, you know, fit the hook better. So once you have your slip knot, what you're going to do is you're going to take your crochet hook in your right hand. You're going to insert the loop that you've made with the slip knot over the top of the crochet hook. Sorry, I'm doing this through a camera, if you doubt my motor skills. And then you want to pull the shorter end, or really whichever end moves more easily. I'm pulling both for ease of use. You pull it so it fits comfortably around the crochet hook. As you can see, like we have our, sorry, it's a little difficult to see with the black yarn, but as you can see, there's a little gap. So we don't want it like completely hugging the hook. We want to have like a little bit of space because really we're going to be removing this hook on top of another loop, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get there. So you have like your loop on the hook. So once you have the loop on the hook, what you're going to do is a chain. So the way we do this is we do what's called a yarn over, and then we pull the bottom loop through. So let me show you what that actually means. To do the yarn over, what we do is we take our yarn, you know, keeping, as I said, like using our middle and thumb to keep the piece on the left of the hook. We move this longer end of the yarn clockwise around this clock. Yeah, that is clockwise. You move it clockwise around the hook. So it's not a full loop, but rather, so you move it clockwise enough where the yarn is now beneath the like curved part of the crochet hook. So from the front, it should look like this, and from the back, or rather the side, it should look like that. So, you know, we, just to show one more time, we yarn over, so we go around that way, and we then do what's called the pull through. The pull through is basically exactly what it sounds like. You take this bottom loop and you, sorry, mine's getting a little tight now. I warn you against keeping it too tight because this is a lot of, you use what you already have. So we pull through, meaning we use the hook to hold this top part of the yarn, and then we pull through this bottom loop. So then we have one link of the chain. It's a little hard to see with the black, I apologize. But if I move this close to the camera, you can see there's like that little loop. I regret this university's color schema. So as you can see, as I'll try and get it as close to the camera as possible, we have like a little loop that we've made. You can see the tiny gap through the black. That is our first chain. So we're going to make a certain number of these chains, and I'm going to demonstrate it a few more times before doing a nice little time skip ahead. So just to reiterate again, and try and keep this like loop looking thing, it kind of looks like a teardrop facing upwards because you don't want it getting all twisty. So that's what, again, we use our middle and thumb for. And we, once again, yarn over. So, you know, take the yarn, move clockwise until it's right underneath the hook. And then we move the bottom part up and pull through. I personally, the way I'm doing it, based on how I'm holding it, sorry, let me move a little further from the camera, is I'm holding it in such a way where I think personally it's easier to move the yarn rather than move the hook. Of course, you do whatever you're more comfortable with, but I find that you get a lot more control when you are working, you know, when you're moving the yarn, not the hook. So just to show that two or three more times, I'm just pulling the yarn a little tighter. You don't want it too tight, of course, because then you're going to have a hard time like putting more stitches through here. But just to show that one more time, or 2 to 3 more times, as I said, we yarn over, and I'm holding the hook stationary, and we pull through. So, you know, now we have 3 of those loops. So yarn over and pull through. So I'm doing these somewhat intentionally loose, so it's easier to see the gaps. So as you can see, like we have, this is our last stitch. That's 1 loop, 2 loops, 3 loops. Sorry, I'm manipulating it a little bit so it's easier to see. And then the 4th loop, the first one that we did. Ideally, you want to try and apply a consistent amount of pressure / tension so they look consistent. But I wouldn't sweat that too much, especially if you're a beginner, because, you know, that's something that comes with experience. So just one more time, one final time. We yarn over, and then keeping the hook as it is, use our thumb and middle to pull up and pull through. And that's how you do a chain. And again, try to use these fingers to keep these in place. And you do this a total number of times depending on which pattern you're using. It's either about, I believe, 45, 23, or 23. It should specify on your pattern. But yeah, you would do this chain, the number of how many stitches the pattern has. And I will meet you again when we reach that number. One more close up, and then we will do our cut away to the finished one. Okay, so via the magic of editing, I now have a chain here of 45. So if you were to just pick this up and count and make sure it remains all upright, you would see 45 of these tiny little loops that I've made. So you can see the part I apologize for the existence of black yarn. The part on top and the part on the bottom, and it should not twist throughout, so it should just look like one nice long chain. And again, they might vary in size slightly. That's only natural. Don't sweat that too much. But yeah, so you should have a good 45 loops along this chain, or 45 chains as we call it. Some of them might, look like they're a little more connected, but I can assure you that these, are 2 different loops. But yeah. Okay, so let's do our I was holding it upside down, but so this is actually our top side. But yeah, so let's get on to how to transition to the next row. So once you have 45, or I think the case of just the shorter one, 23, you have 23 chains along your chain. What you would do is you would do one more chain. This is going to be our turning chain, so we're not going to be working into this chain. We would do one more chain, so yarn over and pull through. And then we are going to be working in the opposite direction. How exciting. So this is normally called a turning chain because often you're going to have to rotate your entire work to work on it more. But in our case, we have it already in the proper orientation. So that's all great. So here's what we do. So once we've made that other chain, we would insert our hook, not into the last chain that we just made, because then that would just undo our work, but rather the second to last chain. So we count 1, 2, and we insert the hook through the gap of that second chain. I'm so sorry. Through the second chain, as you can see there. So now we have 2 loops on our hook. So the one on the bottom, and then the one that we just inserted into. There's a total of 2 on the hook. So we have 2 chains on our hook. Then from here, we're going to do, as I said, what's called a single stitch. So to do a single stitch, what you do is you yarn over, you would pull through the first of the 2 stitches, and then you yarn over a second time and pull through both of the remaining loops. I know that was quite fast, so I'm going to go through this a few times just to be sure, but that is in short, it's basically a glorified chain, but with 1 intermediate step. And again, this loop looks quite large. Yours will vary, but we're going to do another single stitch just to, do it again. So we insert our hook through. So as you can see, and again, I'll bring this as close to the camera as I can without, washing out the lighting. As you can see, we've now worked into this little loop right here because it's pulling, right? Because we have attached. So we then go to our third loop, the next loop, and we insert our hook into that. So once we have that, we would yarn over, as we went over before, yarn over, and then keeping the hook stationary, move the project upwards to have the first of the 2 loops go over. And then we would yarn over again and have both of the remaining loops go over. As you can see, it's much easier for me to just move the yarn rather than move the hook. Otherwise, it runs the risk of getting caught. But again, do whatever works best for you. Then we do it again. So then we would do it again. So then we would insert our hook through the next loop, yarn over, move the first of the 2 loops, pull over the first of the 2 loops, yarn over again, and then pull over both of the 2 loops. As you can see, I'm sort of pulling the project away from the hook to create that nice little gap to fit the yarn through, and then I'm using that gap to, slip the yarn over to make it easier for myself. You can also manipulate it to make the hole look bigger for yourself, but I advise not to make it too loose or too tight because too loose will look a bit messy. As you can see, mine's getting a bit weird looking. but too tight will make it so you don't have that little space to work into. I'm just making it a bit looser to be able to more easily demonstrate where the holes are. So we, as I said, one more time, insert our hook through, yarn over. As you can kind of see from above, I'm using that sort of gap. Pull over the first one, yarn over again, pull over the second one. One final time, we are going to insert the hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through the first one, insert the hook into the next stitch, pull through both of them, and that's a single. In the UK, they actually call this a double, because as you can see, we did kind of two steps, that first and then the second where we pull through both. But we call it a single here in America. So yeah, so we're gonna just do a total of 45 of those, and if you want to count them, again, I'm so sorry for the black yarn. You can see you can kind of see these little like braid-like shapes on top of the yarn. It would be a little easier to demonstrate with a lighter colored yarn, but like these two little loops, that's one single crochet. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So we have a total of 4 that we've done. So we have 41 left for the full size, 19 for the smaller ones. Hi, I can do math. Yay. Okay, so a little cutaway. We now have a total of 44, which I'm about to do the last one, single stitches. Sorry, I had to cut that. I'm woefully nearsighted in one eye, so alas, it is a little difficult for me to crochet at arm's length. So you're always welcome to hold the crochet as close to your eyes or the camera, in my case, as you'd like normally. But just doing my best to make this easier for you all. So yeah, so then we just do our final stitch, so it'll look a little tiny, but we just find that last loop. And just to show it one more time, we put our hook through the loop, we yarn over, pull through the first one, yarn over a second time, and pull through the last 2. And yeah, so we now have our total of 45 or 23 stitches. And you may have keen-eyed observers may have just seen this flash of orange right there. This is a stitch marker. I highly recommend them to mark the ends of your pieces or other relevant numbers. Like let's say every 20 you can put one. We've included a few for you guys. I personally recommend the ends because, this last loop can look a little strange compared to the other one, so it's a little hard to tell that's included. But please don't omit this, otherwise you're going to have a triangle banner, which, if that's your thing, no judgment. But I do recommend putting it in your end stitches, just so, you can preserve them. But yeah, and then so once we have our 45, we would do a turning chain. So we yarn over and just pull through the one loop. And then this is where we actually get to do the fun little turn. So I just flip that over. And now, again, we are working this way. We are working to our left. So before the piece was oriented where it was going to the right. So now with the turning chain, we go to the left. And of course, we ignore this little turning chain because if we were to just work straight into it, it would, just undo itself. So we would then start with the first single stitch that we now have. And normally I would put a stitch marker through here. Usually I do the first stitch first, just because it's a little easier once you already have a stitch there. But yeah, so let's get started with our first row of the formal tapestry. Or rather, this is the second row because the first row is just like a plain black line. But, the first row where we're actually going to do some crazy color switching. But we'll get to that in a second. So first, we, the only difference here between this and the chain is now when you look in the sort of top cross section. Again, I'm sorry, this is a little hard to see. We have in each stitch, we have 2 loops rather than the one from the chain. I'm going to try and pull these so they look a bit more exaggerated. So we have 2 loops here. So we want to make sure when we're inserting our hook underneath, we are going underneath both of these loops. So you're not working in obviously the 5th one first, but this one is just an example that I've pulled out a little more. We would be going under and making sure, we have both of these loops on our hook when we're doing whatever first stitch we're starting with. But, that's just something to look out for. So we are doing more single stitches until we reach our first color swap. So this is where I pull up the pattern. Let me just, some behind the scenes magic. So we have our nice printed pattern. Yours, of course, will say whatever you ordered. In this case, I'm class of 27. I figured I'll make a 26 one. You know, if some lucky senior wants the demo one, they're welcome to. We'll ask about that at the meeting. But you should have your QR code to this video tutorial. You know, whatever class pattern you have, some information about it, like, you know, just this is general instructions for all you advanced people if you don't want to listen to me yap for however long this tutorial will be, and then the total dimensions. In this case, this one is 45 by 15 for the full size. And then here are some useful QR codes. You know, you have your chain, single, how to change colors, which is what we're about to get into, and then a whole bunch of other fun crocheting tutorials, which I highly recommend. I hand curated those ones. But yeah. So with this, we're gonna look at our pattern and see just how many we have to crochet before we switch our first colors. So I highly recommend also at this point that you get some kind of writing implement, whether that's a pen, pencil. Highlighter also works quite nice because you can highlight every square that you've worked in. I'm personally going to go for a blue pen right now, just because that's what I have most conveniently available. And I'm going to mark off every stitch as we do them. So I could mark that first row, but I figure that's just our total number that we have counted, and having those numbers is nice. So as we can see, if we look at this pattern, as I hold it close to the camera, hopefully that stays focused, we have 1, 2 stitches until we have our first orange square. Of course, it's gray because we have our grayscale printing, but the first orange in the full Princeton is the third one. So we do 1 regular, and then I'll show you the special way that you do it right before you're about to change colors. So as we just did, we did our first single stitch. No, we didn't. LOL, I lied. We do our first single stitch as normal. So we, you know, insert the hook through, yarn over. And again, as you can see, I'm still like, I'm not really using these fingers as much. I'm kind of using them more to like hold the chain as we work on it. But this index finger is still being used to, you know, hold the tension in place in this yarn. But I digress. So we yarn over, pull through the 1 or what's now 2 loops because it's a single. And then we yarn over and pull through both of these. So that is our first single crochet. And I'm actually going to grab a stitch marker and put it through there, just so we can mark our end stitch. So we need to make sure that we get everything, including this one. Otherwise, it will give a triangle or a trapezoid vibes because, you know, if you don't have the same number at start and end, you're not going to really get a rectangle. But yeah, so we have our first single, and then here's how we get ready for our color switch. And this is where I'm going to get all nice and personal with the camera because, again, my eyes are quite bad. But hopefully this helps you see it better as well. So in order to do a color switch, what we do is we kind of do half of a stitch with one color and half with the other. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. So to do this, I would insert my hook through these, like through this stitch, under these 2 loops as normal, yarn over as I would also as normal, and do the first loop over. So as you can see, I have 2 black yarns on my hook, but instead of taking the black yarn and finishing the stitch, this is where I introduce my second color, in this case our orange, which I guess these are nice, these are high contrast. So then what I would do is, I personally like having the shorter end facing away from me, although this doesn't really matter. We're gonna tuck or tie these in at the end. But what I would do is I would put the orange yarn on the hook like it's, you know, a normal stitch, say it's like sticking out there, and then we would pull through and slide the 2 black stitches over the orange, as you can see. Yay, so exciting. And now, as you can see, our working color is now orange. So that's pretty cool. So now we can just kind of work with our orange as we would, like, you know, it's just we had the whole time. The one thing I will say about that is we want to kind of tuck the black underneath the orange to make it so we can just switch right back to the black easily without having to just, you know, reintroduce it every time. So this is our third stitch right here. This is, in the case of the Princeton, we have 3 orange stitches, as you can kind of see on top there. So I'm just going to put a little line through the first 2 because we did those. And we are about to do the third one. So yeah. So then what we would do is we would put the yarn, sorry, the black stitches are hard to see, so let me create an artificial gap a bit. You don't have to you could do this if you want to make your life easier, but really you can kind of just do it as is. This is because I have vision problems. So what we would do is we would insert the hook through these 2, So like through the standard black stitch that we were working on. And then we also want to kind of put this black stitch also on top with the original stitch, because then what this will do is this will make sure the black stitch is kind of tucked underneath this orange one, so it's not visible, and so you can easily work with it when we want to switch back. So then now that we have our orange yarn, we are going to yarn over and pull through the loop and this orange stitch. Well, the orange stitch isn't a full loop, but you just keep it grouped together. So we yarn over and pull through that first grouping, and then we would yarn over one more time and pull through both of the orange. So as you can see, nothing is really different once we introduce our new color. It's just a matter of trying to keep the black yarn tucked underneath. Sorry, I can't even find it. It's so well tucked. Hello? There we go. Tucked underneath our orange stitches, and the orange eventually tucked underneath the black, so we can, have that nice clean polished look at the end. So, and this orange tail, don't worry about. But as you can see, let's just do it one more time. We insert the hook through these two black loops, and again we have our black yarn also on top. We yarn over, pull through those the first two, and then the black yarn over again, and pull through the two orange loops. Hooray! So as you can see, we have our two orange loops. This first one, as you can see, the first one is getting a bit squashed. So if at any point you want to make this loop bigger or smaller, you can kind of pull the two loops together. Or if it's a little too big, you can pull this little tail to tighten it. That's a matter of preference, but we kind of want them all to be as close to the same size as possible. This won't be a problem with future stitches, but it's just a little thing to keep note of if it's bothering you. But yeah, I'm just also making this loop bigger so it's easier to see. But yeah, as you can see, we have we did our two oranges, and then now it's time to switch back to black. So we basically would do the same process that we just did, sort of in reverse. So I would insert the hook into the next black single stitch, and also have this one under still. We would yarn over. Sorry, I'm skipping saying the steps. Yarn over, pull through. So we have the two orange on the hook, but then we would abandon the orange, put it back down, take the black that we've been, kind of sneakily hiding underneath, yarn over with that, and insert it through our two orange loops. So now black is our working color again. And the orange is still neatly, standing by, but the black is the primary color that we're working with now. So yeah, so it's basically what we just did, just in reverse. So then what we would do is just kind of continue as we were, but now we're tucking orange underneath until it's time for us to switch back. So we put our hook through the black single stitch, and we put the orange on top because we want it nicely tucked underneath, or at least you might see little peeks of it through, but don't sweat it too much. If anything, it just adds to the tiger vibes. But yeah, so we have our orange and our black single. We yarn. And you might see it might get a bit awkward where now, as you can see, I'm not really doing the full clockwise rotation. It's more I just kind of put the yarn down and it's already there. Really, you just want to do the minimum distance possible going in the clockwise direction to get your black yarn or your orange yarn over that hook. So for the next one, you'll probably have to do the full rotation, but for now, this is fine. So we yarn over and we go underneath all those, and we yarn over again with the black, and we pull through. Yippee! Okay, and then once we've done that, we are, unfortunately or fortunately, your call, up to our next, right before a color switch. So we are going to switch back to our orange, the start of the R. So we go into the next stitch. I cannot see, my apologies. We go into the next stitch, and make sure the orange is also over. We yarn over, pull through and under those three, but again, instead of the black, we put the black down, pick the orange up, and we yarn over with the orange, this time going that full clockwise direction, and we pull through black and orange. And yeah, and now we're back to orange. And again, feel free to pull the black, pull the orange, whatever you want to look a little tighter. You're welcome to do that. And what's nice about this is, maybe you can see the teensy weensy bit of orange underneath, but really it's kind of so beautifully hidden behind the piece. So it's as if you were just working with black the whole time. So yeah, it might look a little more interesting as we go the other direction, which I'll show you. I'm gonna go through the first 2 rows in detail, and then show you like some sort of last few details about when things get a little weird. I'll jump in when it's like a 1 switch, 1 switch, 1 switch. But then after this point, we're really just kind of repeating this pattern over the length of this entire pattern. So yeah, so we're just going to be working. So I'm going to go through the first row in deep detail, and then the second row like kind of with a little less, you know, of me interjecting, and then the rest is all on you. You can use these lovely tricks to go through it. But yeah, so we are now on the next. I'm just going to look around the camera for a second. We're up to that first orange. Sorry, I shouldn't have scratched that. We haven't done it yet. But yeah, so let's get it done with. So let's, we're going to pick the black yarn back up so we can hide it underneath. And we insert our hook through the single, and, with the black also nicely grouped with it. We yarn over once, and as you can see, again, it's not the full rotation. We move that first group over the hook, yarn over again, and do the 2 orange loops. And then if we look at our pattern, the R has another 3 oranges. So that's 2. Oh, don't get tangled. I don't advise getting your yarn tangled if you can help it. We would do 2 more, or 2 regular, and then 1, like the last one before a color switch. So we insert our hook through the single, and we also make sure to tuck that black yarn over, pull through, yarn over again, pull through the 2. And then again, the last one before a color switch. So we would, insert our hook through the single, and with the black also on top, yarn over, pull through, and then we put the orange down, take the black, yarn over with the black, and then insert through the 2 orange. And yeah, now we're back to black. Shock to hopefully no one. But I'm going to demo this a few more times, and then I invite you, oh yeah, don't do what I was just doing. Make sure your chain remains straight. You do not want to twist it. So it should be a nice flat, long rectangle through this whole time. So we're just going to go through this process probably, I guess, I would say one or 2 more times each. And then I invite you to attempt the rest of the row. Oh, this next one's going to be, I'll go through the eye in detail because that one might be a little goofy, but I believe in you guys. I think you can get it. So let's get us to at least the end, or the start of the end. And then I invite you guys to, give a good attempt yourself. So we take our black yarn, put it through the single, and with the orange on top, it's a little easier to see the orange. And then we, yarn over, take the black yarn, pull it through, yarn over again, and take both the black yarns. Hooray! And then after the R, we just did the first of the 2. It's time to switch colors again. In different tapestries, the amount of color switching varies wildly. This one has quite a lot because we're trying to spell out text that's pretty close together. But if you were to work with more big detailed images, you'll have larger regions where it's all black, all orange, all green or something. It varies wildly. So don't be discouraged if you're oh dang, this is a lot of color switching. Yes, this is a lot of color switching. I'm sorry. But, be not discouraged. It's not usually this frequent. But yeah, so we're going to switch colors again. So we look at our next stitch, insert, whoa. Yeah, black yarn's a bit of a doozy. Have said this a bunch of times, but I do apologize. We insert our hook through the next stitch, yarn over with the orange also on top, pull through that top little grouping, and then we put the black down, pick the orange up, yarn over with orange, and then we pull through. Yay! So this is where you might be asking, or you might be a bit confused. We look at our pattern and we see it's just 1 orange and then 1 black and then 1 orange again. So you might be oh, what happened to the regular ones? Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to prepare for a color switch 3 times consecutively. So we're just going to go straight into the next type of prep for a color switch, and then also straight back. So I'm going to just show what that would look like quickly. So we're now working in orange, but this is an orange right before a color switch, even though it's the only one. So we would insert the hook through that next stitch, put the black on top with the other 2, yarn over, insert through the hooks, and then even though we just kind of tuck that black away, we pick it. Oh, hello. where'd you go? We pick the black back up, yarn over, and pull through the 2 orange. So we don't get a single like full normal orange. It's still a prep for a color switch. But it still looks like just the same. It's just you don't get that brief reprieve of just getting to work in the one color. So we do that again because as you can see right after the eye, it's just another, one black spot. So we take the black, now our working color, we insert it through the stitch, and we also have the orange on top. We yarn over with the black, pull through the single stitch with the orange grouped on top, and then again, instead of the black, we put the black down, take the orange as our new working color, yarn over, and pull through. So yeah, so again, not a full black stitch, still preparing for that next orange color, the start of the end. After that, you get a little bit of a break. But yeah, so it's as simple as that, really. You're just kind of omitting the part where it's like a little more normal, and then you're just, getting ready for your next color switch. So let's do that. So so we have one more of these, and then we have like a little gap of 3 or 4 black ones. But yeah, so we insert, and also as you can see, like I haven't been harping on this, but like as you can see, the next one is really the one that doesn't have anything in it already. So this one has the stitch already worked in. So the next one without like that sort of being pulled on already is this stitch right here. If you have any questions about this, feel free to ask, or again, to consult some images and tutorials that have clearer visualizations with not black yarn. But yeah, so we're just going to do that one more time. I'll show one more color switch from just the one. And then I think you guys are ready to go. Or again, if you're not, this tutorial is great. Feel free. It's from the Woobles. I do apologize if you were at that first giveaway and it was bad. I promise their tutorials are normally better than that. So I highly recommend using the color changing tutorial. They have a nice like high contrast video. So they're like using teal and orange yarn. So that's obviously a little bit easier to see. But yeah, so we'll show that one more time. So we take the orange, we insert through the single, and with the black still on top, we yarn over, pull through that little grouping, and again, we drop the orange, pick up the black, and then we yarn over with the black, and pull through the 2 orange loops. Yay! And now we're ready to continue. So now we can go back. Oh, see, this is the fun part. So just try not to let these two get tangled with each other. Make your life easier, of course. We are all capable of untangling yarn, but I will tell you, even as Crochet Club president, it's not the most pleasant experience. So yeah, but that's, besides the point. But yeah, so now we did our little eye. We did the start of our N, and then we just continue. So if I'm just going to lift this up for a second, we have 3 blacks, and then we switch colors again. So I'll just do that one last little region, and then I think you guys are good to go. So then we now have those 3 blacks. So just to reiterate kind of what that like quote unquote normal or unchanging region looks like, we insert our hook through. We, with the orange yarn still on top, we yarn over, pull through. And again, now we can stick with the black because we're not trying to change back to orange. So we yarn over again with the black, and then we pull through the 2. And we do that one more time with the normal, and then we get ready to switch colors again. That is 2 stitches. Make sure again that you're going under both the stitches. Sorry, it's a little hard for even I to see. So yeah, just make sure to look out for that. And it's the top 2 stitches like that make up the little teardrop shape on top. So we insert through the stitch and also with the orange in that little group, yarn over, pull through the 2, and then we yarn over again with the black and pull through the remaining. And then, as we just did a bunch of times, it's time to switch back to orange. So just as one last little time, just for fun, we insert our hook through, and we also make sure the orange is on top, yarn over, pull through all of them, and then or not all of them, all but the last one there, yarn over with the orange, because now that's our new working color, and pull through the 2 black. And again, we can slide them around, pull a little tighter, basically get us to whatever thickness works for us. And yeah, and I'm just going to pull this black one a little tighter because I want that to look a little cleaner. And yeah, so that leaves us off. We did those 3, and then we are about to do the 19th stitch of the second row, at least in the case of this like bigger one. So yeah, so up to this point, that's what we've done. Now, I invite you to look at your own pattern. And again, if you had the shorter pattern up to this point, you're following the pattern of these squares. Every time you see a little white square from the Google Sheet, you would do a black stitch or a background stitch. And every time you see the gray square, you do an orange stitch. And if it's a white, then gray, you do black, prepare to switch to orange. If it's gray, then white, you would do a gray, preparing to switch to black, and vice versa. Basically, everything we've done up to this point, and you follow the pattern. So in this case, for us to continue, it would be 1 orange, 2 black, 2 orange, 2 black, 3 orange, 1 black, 3 orange, 2 black. You guys can count. I believe in you. We go to Princeton. So yeah, so I will see you again at the end of the row. So again, via the power of movie/editing magic, I now have basically a complete whole first row. Yay! But I'm just going to complete the last little part on video just to, re-verify again how to end a row. So right now we're up to the last 2 black on the other side of the N. So I'm just going to insert my hook into that stitch. Come on. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over again, pull through both, single stitch, and then 1 more single stitch in this last goofy looking one. Sorry, not the yarn over first. That's a different stitch. Insert the hook through, yarn over, pull through the original stitch, yarn over, pull through both. And then that's our new last stitch. So then one more time, what we do is we make a turning chain. So we yarn over and pull through just that tiny loop. And again, because we were working to the left, there's no more left to go. We just flip it right back over and we work down the other direction. So just to reiterate, or at least an important point about this pattern, is that now before, as you could see, we were working from left to right. But now we are going to be working from right to left because essentially we're working along the back. It's almost like we flip this paper upside down and now we're going that way. I guess it would be easy. So yeah. Oh, it's kind of translucent. So we're kind of working along as if it was that way. So we're still advancing down the piece. It's just now we're working from right to left. So don't go starting to work on the P again because right now we're near the N. So yeah, that's the point we start from. So that means we're doing 2. I'm just going to hold this closer to the camera again so both of us can see. We're doing 2 more stitches and then another one, 2 more, and then another, I guess, what's it called? 3 oranges, 1 black, 1 orange, 2 black, etc. So we're working back down this way until we end right over there. So essentially every even numbered row, you are going to be working along this pattern from left to right, and every odd number row, we are working from right to left. So you're kind of just alternating, and you should see as you go along, the word Princeton will start to form. So we did our turning chain. We would then do our 2 single stitches, color switch back to orange, and then continue along the pattern as we go. One last little note I'm going to say for your own convenience. As you can see, virtue of the way this works, based on the way we do it, the yarn does get kind of tangled in of itself. But what I recommend is every row that you finish, taking 30 seconds to just take your yarn. I'm just going to move them closer so the camera can see more easily. And I'm also just going to wrap this yarn tail just so it doesn't get even more tangled. Taking our yarns and basically unwinding the 2. So I'm just going to it's DNA. Sorry, all you AB science people. And we're kind of unwinding, uncoiling the DNA, or aka unwinding the yarn. And yeah, so you don't need to watch me do this for 30 seconds. But you get the idea. Basically, I'm just kind of putting one over the other in the opposite direction they were in. Oop, see, now it's getting long, but that means you can rewind it around the ball of yarn, so it doesn't have to be a mile long. And I'm going to do that with the black as well. Even if it was a center pull, feel free to just you can make it a little shorter. It's not going to, I don't think it'll get tangled from just that. So yeah, and then we just unwind and then we are good to go. Okay, so now we are working along the back of the piece. So as you can see, we can see the, it tucked in a little more this way. So we're just going to not switch up our method, just something to be aware of slightly more in this iteration. So we have our 1 normal black single stitch, then black change to orange, orange change to black, orange change to black, black change to orange, 3 orange, etc. So I'll show that as we go. So yarn over, insert, nope, that's how you do a half double. Don't do that. Insert through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over again, pull through the 2, and then we get ready to switch to orange. So this is really what I want to demonstrate. So when it's the first one, when it's the first one, we insert our hook through as normal, but as you can see, there isn't really an orange one to work with here. So we're kind of just like treating it. We don't have to worry about like it sort of tucking in. And then we sort of just bring it up towards us. And this is going to look really awkward because we're doing it actually counterclockwise here. But we bring it up to the hook, and then we kind of turn our hook slightly to make it feel kind of less awkward so we don't drop the yarn. And then we kind of pull through those two. And so the black now, the black's kind of behind. So we don't really want that because then we'll see like this weird line along the front. So then what we do instead is we kind of just like consciously nudge the black still kind of on top of this orange stitch, but like more so on top and in front. So when we do this next, so yeah, this is going to be a bit weird. I know it doesn't really want to go like this at first. We yarn over and go through this orange stitch, and we move the black sort of in front of it, and we pull through the orange stitch, and we keep, and if you ever drop a stitch, you can just literally just insert your hook right back where it came. It's all good. And we make sure the black yarn is, before, I don't even know how to put this in words. It's kind of over the orange stitch, but kind of more in front of it. And then we yarn over with the orange, or rather not, there's only one orange. We yarn over with the black as we just were working with, and pull through. And now we have one black. So I'll try and demonstrate this again as a color switching technique. So we yarn over, pull through underneath, and then we kind of move the orange towards us, like not fully, but we just to kind of try and hide it a little better. We move it towards us, and then we yarn over and pull through with the orange. So ideally what we're doing is, as you can see, it still kind of peeks out on the front, but really we're just trying to shift the yarn slightly so it's not so as then we visible. Have our 3 oranges for the end. So when we're kind of having the black go under the orange, we want to like have the black sort of like closer to us than away from us. Because if it's closer to away, it's more likely to be showing on what's going to become the front of our piece, because that's going to show, not Princeton or Peyton backwards. So we want to like kind of move it towards us. You have the option, if you want to, of completely kind of omitting the black in that region. So what this would look like is if I were to insert now I'm not even, so like as you can see, the black is not included in this little cover up. I'm just treating it like it would be normal. This is sometimes better if you have like a long swatch of one particular color, as to not like, I don't know, like waste the other color, because it's only going to be tucked underneath. But I'm showing you how to do this because this is personally what I like doing aesthetically, but I don't know if I advise this for beginners because it just kind of overcomplicates matters slightly for like a slight aesthetic benefit. Yeah, so there we go. And so then we would yarn over with the orange and pull through this. But now, since it wasn't previously under, what we do is we put the orange in front because we're kind of hiding that behind. Take the black, and we go counterclockwise, yarn over, and pull through the 2. So now, as you can see, the black is like fully visible along the back of this because, we have there we go. So remember, it's 2, then away. Insert back. But as you can see, the black is now like fully visible. There's no pretense of hiding it on this side. But now you can't really see it at all on the other side. So that's just a slight aesthetic thing. This is what I like doing. Again, it's kind of complicated, so I'm not going to harp on it, but I am just going to show this one more time along the back side if you are like me and you are slightly interested in it. So I'm going to we move the orange now in front because we don't want it showing on the front side. Move it towards us, rather. Insert our, nope. That's only through one loop. We want through both. Insert. Yarn over with black, and then we move the black forward and towards us again. This if you do it this way, they will get tangled or slightly tangled slightly faster. So again, just watch out for that. You might have to untangle them before like you reach the end of the row to make your life easier. And then keeping the black towards you, counterclockwise, yarn over. And pull through the 2 orange loops. So as you can see, you kind of have this strange, like, you see the orange coming from in front. But yeah, it looks all like good and dandy on the side that, you know, will be displayed. So, you know, do with that information as you will. So that kind of goes over the gist of how to go about the actual color switching in the tapestry. Again, as I said before, you kind of just go back and forth and then, you know, continue along the pattern until you have the full desired result based on what you have here. Again, feel free to continue marking or not. It's really whatever you prefer, what goes where and what you already did, so you can keep track. But as you will start to see, you'll start to see the letters. It's a little hard to tell that this is supposed to be an N, but trust me, as you go along, it will become easier, and you'll start to see your desired pattern will out. So you just kind of go back and forth until you reach the end. Again, if you have any questions or confusions on this part, particularly these middle two tutorials are quite good. You just, you know, would be doing whatever color changes with the color you're currently working with into the next one. And then you could see even more tutorials, again, if you're struggling on anything in particular. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say meaningfully about the working of this pattern. I'll come back one more time at the end to show you how to tie off the piece and make a finished class flag. So I'll see you there. Hi everyone, Future Allison here, with a nearly completed tapestry. So yeah, this is a few days later, because, you know, crocheting takes time. So if the lighting and background are different, my apologies, but I just wanted to show you, this is basically what the completed tapestry looks like. You can see the Princeton spelled out on top, and then this says 2026. I guess this could also be 2028 if you squint. But yeah, this is what your finished, like, full Princeton tapestry will look like. So I'm going to show you now how to tie off the piece and then how to weave in some of these loose ends that you see. And one quick note about the loose ends themselves. As you can see, there's like a bit of this weirdly long, like, loose end between this point and this point on the front. That's actually the gap between the bottom of the P and the top of the two. The reason for that is because, as you can see, there's like a full continuous black region between them. You can either like choose to just like cut the orange yarn like right there and then just simply reintroduce it the same way we introduced it originally up here, or you can like kind of like loosen the yarn and like connect it there. You don't want it too tight because then it'll cause the tapestry to warp inwards. So you can just have like a little dangly orange yarn on the back to connect these two regions. That is your choice. But for all the other loose ends, we will be showing you a nicer way to you know, get rid of them, hide them in the piece, and have like a nice finished result. But before we do that, let's tie off the piece. So the way you tie off almost all crochet pieces is via basically just kind of doing a chain and then sort of like pulling the chain out of itself. Forgive me if that's not the most eloquent description, but I can show you what I mean. So basically what we'll do, big throwback to the beginning of the project, we will take our black yarn over, and insert through this hole. But instead of starting a new chain effectively, what we do then is basically cut the yarn tail so it's, you know, disconnected from the greater spool, which you can't see because it's off screen, but we would cut it to disconnect it, and then essentially we would pull on the hook to remove the remaining yarn tail from, you know, what was originally there. And then what will remain instead of a chain will be effectively just a knot. And so the piece will be closed, and so it will not unravel. So let me show you what that actually looks like. So I'm going to grab my pair of scissors. I'm going to cut off the long end of the black yarn. You can cut this as long or short as you want. Typically you want it like somewhat decently long so you actually have like space to weave in, because if I were to cut it really short, you'd have a bit of a hard time weaving it in to the body of the recipe. So I'm going to cut this somewhat exaggeratingly long, and you could also always cut the rest of it off after you've weaved it in a little bit. So without further ado, let me cut this. Forget my scissors are kind of dull, but we have some scissors if you guys want to borrow, or hopefully you have your own. And then as you can see, I just pulled it through the hole. So yeah, so now if I were to like yank on it, it's not going to come undone. It's now a completed crochet piece. So yeah, now that we have our completed crochet piece, I'm going to take the last stitch marker out. And then all that we have to do is just weave in the ends, so it looks like a relatively complete. Of course, the back is always going to look kind of a bit interesting, whether you kind of did what I did and you had it like sticking out, or if you chose to just weave it in. Either way, it might look a bit scuffed compared to the front. But yeah, you'll clearly see your little text that you have. So I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, so now here is how you weave in things. Then what we do is we basically are going to take our needle and insert it into the stitches that are already there, and like kind of sew in and out of the stitches. Sewing is admittedly not my specialty, so I'm going to do my best to demonstrate this, but really there's no like right or wrong way to sort of like tie off loose ends or like weave them in. It's really whatever you prefer. Some people like going like full in and out. Some people only do through like the back half of a stitch so it's not visible in the front, like for a tapestry. It's really just you want to stick the needle in so this yarn is basically underneath your existing crochet stitches, so it won't like come flying out. You might see like the teeny bit end fly out a little bit, but then it's not going to have like these such long ends. So let me show you how to do that. Sorry, without less yapping. So the way we would do that is we take our needle and we insert it. I'm going to do the back method because I don't want this showing on the front. We insert it into the hook that we have, or not the hook, we insert it into the stitch. And, oh, sorry. I'm holding it very close to the camera and I still can't see. Yeah, we insert it into that stitch and then we kind of pull through. So as you can see, the yarn tail went in and under the back of that stitch, but we don't see it on the front because I made sure to only do it through like the back part of the stitch rather than the entire stitch. So let's do it again with the next one. And you can like alternate doing this with certain stitches without. If you do it one continuous, it'll kind of just look like a line. Some people go in, go out, go in, more like sewing. It's really up to you. So I just went through the second stitch and then I insert the needle again into this orange and a part of the black stitch. The thing about this is it's not an exact art. As you can see, I kind of like, with that last one, put like a piece of the black stitch and some of the orange stitch in. It really doesn't matter, again, because you can't really see it from the front. So it's really, you're just kind of trying to shove the yarn into like somewhat tight gaps to kind of hold it in place. And you do this enough times where there's like a very low risk that your yarn will just like unravel all the way to its original termination point. But really, you're just kind of like trying to take your needle and just like find like convenient gaps. You can go down certain rows. You can go like back up. You only would really get like super like hyper specific with this if you're going for a certain like aesthetic conclusion. But really, I'm just like taking stitches that I think look somewhat tight that are close enough to the original stitch. I'm pushing the needle through them with the yarn attached. And then as you can see, like there's a bit of a weird like little jump going on, but this yarn will be secured. And basically, you'll do this enough times where I would say I usually like going like somewhere between 5 and 7 times. You can obviously do it however much or little as you so prefer. Oh, I lost the yarn. Oh yeah, and if you lose the yarn at any point, because either it becomes like too short, you can just insert it right back. If I can do it on camera, insert it right back into this needle. Sorry, I'm bringing it even closer. I'm filming this looking through a camera, so it's a tad awkward, but you could insert it through the needle. There we go. And then you just kind of continue as you were. So that's why, again, we don't want it to be too short because you have to account for like the minimum length of the needle to be able to conveniently insert it back into your crochet piece. So I'm gonna, which of these stitches looks good? Let's see. I'm also like turning the piece a bit to get a better vantage point. So you can go like across stitches, down stitches. Like it's really, I mean, there are probably people who proclaim more specific like ways to weave in ends, maybe that are neater or like, you know, more uniform. But personally, I don't really care. So as you just saw, I took the needle out because we've done, I think, 5 or 6. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'll add it in post. That it's like relatively decently secured because we started here where it originally ended. And then we like ended over here. So I don't think the yarn's going to like snake in and out and in and out unless I'm like shaking the tapestry around. But like, I don't know what you guys are going to do with this, but probably not that. So I would deem this is probably secure enough. So then once you think the yarn tail is like integrated or weaved in well enough, what you would do is then take the yarn tail and try and cut it as close to the actual like base as possible. You don't want to like obviously cut any of your stitches, but then I take the tapestry. I'm trying to hold it as close as I can. And then we just kind of cut off the remaining yarn end. Why do I have such blunt scissors? There we go. So as you can see, there's going to be like that teeny end of the yarn tail poking out. Unfortunately, there's not really much we can do about that unless you burn it, but I can't recommend that via Princeton. And also, this is not the type of yarn that you're able to burn. That's acrylic, I believe. But yeah, so we have our tiny little yarn end poking out. But yeah, but as you can see, like you'd have to really be like kind of looking for it to find it. So otherwise, it's all good. So then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same method approximately for all the remaining loose ends. So we have the black which the corner ones are a bit trickier because like obviously you don't want it to be like poking out of the sides if you can help it. So for that, we're going to like work inwards at the very least a little bit, like probably working into some of like these stitches so it's like not at the very edge, but also not like on this edge. But then once you like kind of reach like, I would say like here where it's like fully like in the piece rather than on the corner, you can go wherever. I personally don't think it really matters. And then we have this last orange end, nope, that's black. We have this orange end from when we introduced the orange, and then we have the black from when we started the piece as a whole. So we would do this about 3 more times. For the sake of time, because this tutorial is already running extremely long, I'm not going to show that. There's also good tutorials on how to tuck in your loose ends, but I think that gets the basics across. So again, I recommend you check those out if you want a more specific, or at least like maybe a more dignified result with it looking very neat and uniform. And with that, we are done with our tapestry. Yay! I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I do apologize for it being quite long. I meant to, capture as much as possible for absolute beginners. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've made it to the end, please like and subscribe. No, I'm just joking. But thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing your completed tapestries and hopefully seeing you at future Crochet Club events. And I'll see you soon, hopefully. Bye-bye!